Welcome. My name is Richard Turner. I'm the General Counsel and Vice President of Government Relations here at the Florida Restaurant and Lodging Association. The primary responsibilities that I have are legislative in nature or government in nature, where we deal with all kinds of rules, regulations, mandates from the government as it relates to both restaurants and public lodging establishments. Also, because I have been a member of the Florida Bar for over 25 years, I do handle legal matters both for the association. They can range from anything from overseeing an amicus brief that we may file on a particular issue. We've got one right now with the Department of Revenue over a tax issue. It could be appearance at administrative hearings and different county commissions and that nature. Yes, this summer during our board meeting, there were many initiatives that the association acted on, and three of them that probably pop out is oil and gas exploration off the shores of Florida. The FRLA is opposed to any offshore oil and gas exploration along our shores, and of course a lot of that has to do with the disaster of last year, Deepwater Horizon. The repercussions from that particular horrific environmental disaster is probably still not being felt. Another huge issue, and this is both a Florida issue and a nationwide issue, is immigration. The FRLA believes that legislation that involves immigration should be on a federal level. It should be the same in all states. What has happened is Washington is gridlocked. They're no longer able to pass legislation on large initiatives like this. And so what you're seeing are the states that are beginning to fill in the gap. To give you an example would be Arizona, Alabama, Georgia, several other states are passing their own separate pieces of legislation. We, as an organization that represents tourism, don't believe a piecemeal approach is wise. The other thing about immigration most people don't realize is that we're a little different from border states, say California, Arizona. We have an immigration issue, but it's much different than the issue of border states. And then finally, because we're the epicenter of hospitality in North America, Florida cannot afford to be painted as an unwelcoming or unfriendly state, because what will happen is if legislation is passed piecemeal, not connected with the federal system, then it is possible we could suffer the same fate as, say, Arizona, that within 30 days of passing their immigration legislation, they lost $145 million in convention business. Florida cannot afford that. The third issue would be online tax. And what this issue is about is the difference between when you purchase a room from the hotel directly or if you purchase it from an online company. And the online companies developed a system to where there is a real tax issue. In other words, they don't pay the same amount of taxes as the brick and mortar hotels pay. So we have a fairness issue, and we also have an issue that, lost revenues for the state are something that we really must be conscious of. And there is some confusion in both the law and the administration and enforcement of this particular tax issue. As an example, later on this month, I'm going to appear before the Florida Cabinet. The Department of Revenue has a proposed rule as it relates to online travel, of which the Florida Restaurant and Lodging Association will be asking the Cabinet to allow the Department of Revenue to make rules on this subject, so the case is clear for all and we can get back to fair taxation. Well, as you know, I don't think anyone could not have noticed in the last 2 or 3 weeks we have a lot of things going on in Washington, some of them very scary. But the things that we look at are usually driven by our sister organizations, our national organizations in Washington. As many of you know, Carol and I go up to Washington probably 4 times a year to talk to our congressional delegation. The vast majority of them are from the Florida legislature, so it's like old home week, if you will, when you go up to Washington. But the American Hotel and Lodging Association, in conjunction with the National Restaurant Association, they have a lot of issues that are very common to business and to the tourism industry. Probably the big ones would be they're very concerned about health care and the reform of health care, what it's going to cost business. Any kind of increase in taxes or additional government regulations are something they always look for. Wage and labor issues, since those tend to be national, are always at the forefront of these two organizations. And primarily, to get Washington to understand that, you know, if you allow business to be business, we can create jobs. But if you're going to smother us with meaningless regulations and taxes, it gets more and more difficult to be a provider for the economy, which the tourism industry always has.